Good evening and welcome to the Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University virtual information session, specifically in regards to our cybersecurity and intelligence degree programs. My name is Sarah and we're excited to have you join us today so that we can share some great information with you about some of our unique programs here at Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University in Prescott, Arizona. A few things about our webinar tonight, just so that you're aware. We will be recording this session, and that recording will be available for you in case you need to go back to reference it or perhaps show it to a friend and share some information about Embry-Riddle and our programs. Additionally, for the webinar tonight, we will be utilizing the Q&A feature of the Zoom webinar. So if you happen to notice down at the bottom of your screen, you'll see the Q&A button, and I would encourage you to utilize this throughout our presentation so that you can ask us your questions. After we get through the main content portion of our webinar this evening, we will be going through and kind of opening the floor for a Q&A session, which is where we will answer your specific questions. So with that taken care of, I'm going to go ahead and pass this on to our Dean of the College of Business Security and Intelligence, Dr. Tom Drape.
Thank you very much, Sarah, and a very warm welcome and good evening to all those joining us tonight on the webinar. Just as a reminder, as Sarah mentioned, if you have any questions during the webinar, go ahead and use the Q&A function. We'll be monitoring those. We are here at the Prescott, Arizona campus, 5,000 feet in Prescott, Arizona. What you see behind me is a backdrop of our campus and the surrounding area of Prescott, Arizona, and we are roughly 1.5 hours north of Phoenix. I'm Tom Drape. I have the privilege to serve as the chair of the College of Business Security and Intelligence, better known as CBSI. And here at our Prescott campus, we have 25 undergraduate degrees, 3 graduate degrees, just over 3,000 students representing all 50 states and approximately 30 plus countries over the last couple decades. And one of the big values for Embry-Riddle is personal attention to student success. And you will see that through our cyber program, maybe better than any other program on campus. By that, we have small class sizes, hands-on projects, hands-on research and scholarship opportunities, amazing faculty that also have industry connections, and then outside industry connections with an industry advisory board that we have as well. One of the things we value in working with the students and mentoring is having career-ready graduates. And now, unfortunately, there's such an increase in cybercrime and other areas that it is not very hard to get positions in that area. And we are very much trying to fill that need with our cyber program. And one of the key things for tonight is we are celebrating our 10-year anniversary of the program. So we have with us the founder of the program, Dr. John Haas, as well as our academic chair, Dr. Krishna Sampagathaya. Both of them leaders of our cybersecurity program. And with that, I'll hand it over to Dr. Sampagathaya and Dr. Haas for the next presentation.
Well, thank you, Dean Drape. It's an honor to be one of the contributors to this webinar. So welcome to you all for this webinar. We're going to introduce you to the Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University's Cyber Intelligence and Security Program. And in the following slides, you'll see a lot of details about the program and what it has to offer and how it stands out from the other programs, and also what do you see yourself as a career path in this particular field. So my name is Dr. Krishna Sampagathaya, as Dr. Drape mentioned, and this is our Prescott campus. You'll see the eagle is flying there, so we call ourselves Eagles. But this is a campus, and it's a beautiful scene that you get most of the time of the year. But then this is our nest, which is all these people here are examples. So on the right bottom, you see the 6 full-time faculty who support the department, which includes myself, Dr. John Haas. Next to him is Professor Rosa Shergott. Next to her is Professor Jesse Chu. And then we have Dr. Catalina Aranzazu-Suskun and Dr. Matthew Heath Van Horn. So these are the core full-time faculty. And then you have a lot of students within the program who grow in different ways. And you'll see that in the following slides. So before we get into the nitty-gritty, let's kind of figure out what is really cybersecurity. So one of the things that you might see every day is a data breach. Maybe your own personal data was stolen, or maybe your nearby water plant was poisoned with a cyber attack. So these are kinds of attacks that are happening more and more in the last few years, especially, and lead to either data breach, lead to some kind of cyber espionage, lead to some attack on a critical infrastructure like a water plant, power grid, or something else, including recently the drones and aircraft. So those are the types of things that are happening in the cybersecurity world. So there are all kinds of threats, both physical, that means something like a connected car that you're driving, or a digital threat, which is the data that you're working on is actually a corrupt data. So that is what cyber intelligence, which means you're trying to understand threats from data, and cybersecurity, which means you're protecting and defending against threats that are coming in. And we understand this at Embry-Riddle. So we have set up a program which has been, like Dean Drape said, for 10 years. And so we have been developing the program over the years to evolve as the threat has been evolving. So if we go and distinguish ourselves, because cybersecurity has become such a large industry that there are so many university programs out there that you might be confused as to how does one program stand apart from the others. So our task here is to distinguish our program from the others that exist in the country. So here you see the national and international recognitions on the top. So what are the things that we have? One is the National Security Agency and the Department of Homeland Security has this National Center of Academic Excellence in Cybersecurity. There are about 320 to 350 institutions, both community college and four-year university program that, and also the master's program that are considered to be CAEs, but we actually go further than just a CAE. We go and also distinguish ourselves with the ABET. This is standing for Accreditation Board for Engineering and Technology, which is a worldwide standard. And they have only about a dozen, maybe 15 programs now. We were the first 8 or so that got this. And this is very hard to get, but we did get it. So we are an ABET accredited engineering program for cybersecurity. Another distinction is that we are, I don't know if you have heard of Cyber Command. It's a US cyber offensive unit, and we are an academic member of that particular alliance. We are also holders of the Department of Defense Cyber Scholarship Program, which is another distinction, and also the only institution to have the National Science Foundation Cyber Core Scholarship of Service, which is about 100 institutions have that in the US, but we are the only one for aviation aerospace cybersecurity. We are also one of the very few, this is even more smaller, it's maybe about 35 or 40 institutions in the US are invited every year to send 2 students to the RSA conference that happens annually. And this is a fully paid trip and also supported with a scholar program. So that's another distinction. And our students are phenomenal. They have designed the world's only, and believe me, it is the world's only student-led capture the flag competition for aviation cybersecurity. And also we are hosting probably one of the few or only national level aviation cybersecurity workshop in our campus. So these are really core distinction. And then of course it comes down to the faculty. Dr. Haas leads the whole gamut of 6 of us, and we really bring a lot of experience from different sectors, including industry, academia, and government. So that's essentially what we stand out and provide our experience into the curriculum. And also our curriculum is not theory. It is application of theory and hands-on exercises. So it's a lot of hands-on learning, and we have the facilities to support that, including Cyber Lab and a Cyber Gym makerspace, which is an innovative space for students to get more creative in cybersecurity. Furthermore, our curriculum is not just a computer science, a mathematics, or a business program or something like that. With a few cyber courses, we are very, very driven or core to our cyber curriculum. So that is something I will describe further. That's why I've highlighted that. And also we bring a lot of industry funding for research, which is given to undergraduates as well. This is very rare. that not many universities have too many opportunities for undergraduates, but we are primarily driven by undergraduates for our research projects. So these are things, obviously, all these benefits will lead to growth in our enrollment. So if you look at our program, this is how it's grown over the last decade. We are proud of this, and we have reached about a 155 as kind of a average level of enrollment that happens every year, every academic year. And we also have a master's program, which has recently had undergraduates taking that as well to improve their credentials. Now let's focus on the curriculum, how that stands out. And as I said, we are very, very in-depth cyber curriculum that in our 120 credits. So here's a snapshot, 120 credits split across multiple types of areas. So on the top, you see the general education, which means you take communications, humanities, social sciences, psychology, and business courses, 31 credits of that, including 1 credit of Univ 101. Then you go and take 19 credits of natural science, which means you take 7 credits of physics or chemistry or some natural science course, and also 12 credits of mathematics. So that adds to 19. And then that's where the cyber starts. So you have 55 credits, 9 credits, and six credits, which adds to 70 credits, which means about 60% of the curriculum is cyber or security driven. That truly makes us unique. And now let me unravel the curtain and show you what you do in the first year in cyber. First, you learn Python programming, go into C programming, learn about computer science. So it doesn't mean you have to be an expert upfront. You can do it as you go through our curriculum. CI 120 gives you a big picture. It gives you like an eagle flying across cybersecurity, learn the big picture. And then you also go hands-on in both CI 120 and in the CI 201 that you see next. You go into operating systems, see what the environment feels like, how do files look like, how do you script within that using Python and other types of languages. So those are things that you learn right up front in the first year. In the second year, you go into networking, you go into data structures to understand how crypto works, and you learn crypto, and also you learn about network security. So you have very, very good understanding by the time you reach your second year. Your fourth semester, you should have really upper hand to go deeper into cybersecurity, which means you get much more cyber in your third year courses. So in this case, you get a forensics track. You learn about computing forensics and also network forensics. You learn about ethical hacking, which means you become an adversary who's trying to attack a computer, a network that's connected to it, all that. And then, of course, you learn about software security, which means developing a very good amount of lines of code that doesn't have bugs in it, or those are things you did learn. And database security is learning how to protect the data at rest that is stored somewhere. How do you protect that? And of course, after that, you go and learn at the process level how operating systems work, and also how do you protect those systems in the information and computing sense. You also learn about data science, and that is a really it's an unavoidable topic because as you may have already heard, there's ChatGPT, there is Gemini, there are other kinds of tools out there. And those are all driven by artificial intelligence or machine learning, however we want to call it. That is something you learn in that data science course. But also you go into malware analysis. So that's where you understand how bad code works, try to reverse engineer it into something that you can understand and analyze. And also you do a capstone. So that's where you learn everything that you've learned in up to third year, and then you go into something hands-on. So let me talk about some of those data. But that's essentially what you get upfront in computing. But you also get to the physical security and intelligence as well, which is in that pink set of blocks. So you learn about physical security, which means how does a corporate work in terms of a physical security sense. You learn about global intelligence, which means how does an adversary think when they want to attack you as a nation state or some other way. And then you learn about intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance, which is the last course there, which is about satellite images and how it's used for security. But then you have 6 credits of open electives, which can be used for things that we offer in addition to these courses. So that means total of 70 credits for just cyber courses and security courses and intelligence courses. And then, of course, you have the gen eds and you have the math and natural science. So that's essentially the snapshot of the 120 credit curriculum that we have for undergraduates in our cyber program. So now let's go shift and think about, yes, you have curriculum, but what about your life in the campus? So there's plenty of stuff. It's a very close-knit campus of maybe about 3,000 or so students. So there's a lot of student government activities, there's a lot of socials, things that you can enjoy. And then you can also get technical. So the curriculum doesn't necessarily miss anything, but there's so many tools in cyberspace that you would like to learn more and learn as a group as well and collaborate on things. That's why we have cyber clubs, where we have cyber defense, ethical hacking, women in cybersecurity, also called a cyber alliance. And also we used to have a cyber eye, which is an intelligence aspect as well. And what does clubs do? They enable students like yourself to go out and compete at regional, at national, at even international levels. And our students have been doing that. They've been doing this exceedingly well and placing themselves in the top 10, for example, this year's in the annuals of the NCAE competition. In addition, you also have a lot of industry engagement, and you'll see this in the following slides, but you'll see a lot of industry engagement that enables you to do research projects and also get internships after that. So let's look at some pictures about our Cyber Eagles, which we are very proud about, but these are some of the examples. So this shows, I don't know if you're really enthusiastic about cybersecurity, you would know DEF CON. But DEF CON is world's biggest hacker conference. So what we do is since 2020, we have been either virtually or last year we went in person to DEF CON, and we were the only university to represent the aerospace village as our CTF was offered there. Our Capture the Flag was offered to all the participants who came to DEF CON. So that's something we are very proud of. You see the students on the right-hand side wearing yellow shirts. There were 10 of us, including 2 faculty, and we had a ball. So the pictures don't show all the people there because we are not supposed to take the photos of other people. So we just took our photos and some of the alumni who came, but that's essentially what you see. We also go right to the industry. So we go to the industry headquarters and we teach them about aviation cybersecurity, for example, or cybersecurity. That's another thing we did recently at Collins Aerospace, but also at a place called Aviation Cyber Initiative, Cyber Rodeo. These are things that we do outside the university. We also go all the way. We recently did in the fall of 23, we went to Dublin, which is in Ireland, and we went there to offer our competition to Ireland institutions and some of the European institutions at a place called Aviation ISAC Cybersecurity Summit. And that's a leading industry conference that happened in Dublin. We also go to headquarters like Southwest. So Southwest in Dallas Love Field has got their headquarters. So we went there, we offered our CTF to their employees and made them understand truly what aviation cybersecurity is. And we got in turn to visit their facilities. So the picture you see there is the Network Operations Center, which we got to see. It's a huge facility, but it's a very good experience for students. We don't ignore the K-12, so we do also train them on cybersecurity and show them what aviation cybersecurity looks like. So these are things that we do, our students do. And also, like I said, our students compete. And this is an example of Sandia National Labs Tracer Fire. It's a competition that is offered to the state of Arizona. And this time they also included some Colorado institutions, or actually Nevada institutions, and they competed. So there were 80 of our students who competed with Arizona schools and also the Nevada school. So that essentially led to our students got the top 3 spots. I don't know how proud I can say in the video, but I'm very proud of that. And also, like I said, the RSA conference is a venue where our students get to go. Very few universities get to send them, but they get to go and participate and meet legends of cybersecurity, but also present posters that can be selected by a judge panel to be the top 4. So last year and this year, we got the top 4 posters in this conference. And like I said, the research project's industry driven. This is an example of a Boeing project, which is looking at enabling pilots who fly to see drones on their display. So that is something I can only say to that extent, but that is something our students did over 3 years with different teams of students. They came together, built a system, flight tested it, and showed it worked securely. So all that, what does it enable? Obviously, it enables you to go on really rich and diverse paths into the industry. And this is something that some of the areas listed here, but we have had about 75% of our students go to private sector and 25% go to the public sector, which means government, the Department of Defense, and others. And so the other thing is, in addition to all the cybersecurity knowledge, you also learn about aviation cybersecurity as you go through the curriculum, because there's so many extracurricular activities. There's a course as well that you can take optionally. These are things that really places you in a niche area, which is growing by the day, really. There's so many jobs in that. And if you want to know more about what are the possible knowledge areas that you need, what are the possible competence areas, what are the skills you need, I recommend you look at this website, which is called the National Initiative for Cyber Education. It's a framework, and there's a QR code in there that you can see, but it's a website that you can go to and explore what are the different types of skills they look for, and also jobs. What kind of jobs out there across the US, including Arizona? There are plenty of jobs of different types. You can research those, and again, a QR code is there for you to scan and learn more. So that is pretty much what we want to briefly share with you about the program. There's plenty to share. I can keep talking for the whole day, but I won't. Here I'll cut short and just show you the picture of our, how many here, about 9 scholars from both the National Science Foundation and the Department of Defense, who essentially are, some of them are graduating this semester and going to jobs, some are continuing. And then there is me on the left and Dr. Haas, who is on the right. Now, Dr. Haas, as Dr. Drape mentioned, he's the founding chair who had the vision all the way back in 2012, 2013 to start the program and take it to the level it has in fall of 2013 onwards till now. So I'm very proud of or honored to introduce him to come into this conversation and kind of share anything he would like to add.
Thank you, Krishna, for that introduction. And one of the things that I like to highlight is that back in 2013, more than a decade ago, we started. I was the only faculty, and so we had 11 students that first semester. And some of those students, of course, weren't real sure about what this cybersecurity thing is all about. And then the next year, we were able to have both freshmen and sophomore. And then the third year, finally, we had another faculty. And since then, it's just grown and really come to life what I imagined it would be, which is a way to be able to show the full breadth of cyber intelligence and security. And our students now have just exceeded our expectations, because you can find them at every government agency, in all the leading corporations. And it really is the kind of dream come true for a startup within academia. And today there are a lot of organizations that come back and say, well, do you have another student just like her or just like him? And we say, you have to wait until May. We'll have a whole fresh crop of excellent young students. So it's really been an honor to watch it grow. And of course, under the leadership of Dr. Sampaguthea, we've been really going leaps and bounds in the aviation cybersecurity domain.
Thank you, John. I think for you, it would have been a bigger challenge because cybersecurity in an aviation university. So Embry-Riddle, if you don't know, the ones in the audience, is very, very rich for its aviation history, but not in cybersecurity. But since John Haas founded this back in 2013, it's become its own attraction because it's getting more and more cyber recognition independent of aviation. aviation is a specialty area, but there's a lot of cyber talent that gets generated. And it's all because of his efforts way back then, where no one really knew how it does fit in this ecosystem. So he was able to achieve that and bring it to its current state.
Yeah, one of the things that I enjoyed is that I was working with a faculty member in the math department at the time, and that's what led to the founding of the department, because we recognized, you know what, this cybersecurity thing is going to do nothing but grow, and so we should invest in it. And it became the fastest growing program on the campus because it attracted people from all walks, because you could come in with some background or you could come in with no background. And cybersecurity is an equal opportunity. So it doesn't care whether you are, a certain interest, you want to go into policy, you want to go into coding, you want to go into malware analysis. There's plenty of room for everyone with 500,000 open jobs right now in the United States.
Absolutely, John. So I think at this point, we are, almost, actually time flies, but we are almost 28 minutes into this. But wanted to take some questions from the audience. So please feel free to use the Q&A button that you might see in your Zoom to ask your questions.
Well, let me say thank you, John. Thank you, Krishna. And I have keep putting any more questions in the Q&A. I have a couple out here that kind of go together, and so I'll ask both of the questions, and then as both of you see fit. What kind of internships do students get, and where's the coolest place that alumni work?
Should I take that one?
Yeah, start it.
Yeah, I think so. The internship opportunities, because we are a CAE school, there are multiple opportunities that come knocking on our door. But first one that comes really is in September, typically, which is our virtual career fair for the CAE schools. It starts right in September for the summer. But also the fact is, organizations like the Department of Justice has our students, and they're really impressed with their quality. But their internships are 2 years out. So they are like, you have to apply 2 years ahead to get an internship, let's say now, if you want for 2025. So that's something that, 2026. So that is something that we get a lot. So we get those opportunities in public sector. In the private sector, they're really coming to us and asking, we want your students, can you please give us? So this is a workshop as an example. We are organizing a workshop next week on April 17th and 18th. And we have 44 organizations, and I think about 50% of them want to come here to look at our students, understand how they can create internship opportunities for them. There was one going back in 2018, which is Boeing, wanted to get our students, but they did not know what a cybersecurity position would be. So they created one just for a student to be hired as an intern and then as a full-time employee. So those are things I wanted to share. John, do you have any?
Well, one of the coolest positions is that one of our students started in government and then switched to the private sector and is now the key cybersecurity person for the nation, internationally the largest venture capitalist firm in the world, Andreessen and Horowitz, in Silicon Valley. And he's lucky because he gets to work remotely in Reno, Nevada. And so it's a great deal because he operates fire trucks during the month when he's off. So that's, I think, the most impressive job of anyone that I can think of.
Agreed.
All right, here's another question somewhat in line with that. How much money can you make with just a bachelor's in cybersecurity?
So I can speak to our students. They can go close to 6 figures. I've seen some who have passed that, but you can get close to 6 figures. That's kind of the ballpark right now, between 85 to 95 and maybe going into the 6 figure. John?
Yeah, and it certainly does vary by sector. Obviously, the financial sector pays better than, for instance, some of the other sectors, but every industry needs people in cybersecurity. We've had people not only in telecommunications, but in the network, the social media, people that are working. One of our graduates worked at GoDaddy, which many of you may have heard of as an ISP out there. And so when you look at the public sector, although the pay is not quite the same, the access to the kinds of problems that you'll never see in the private sector is the most interesting. And in the public sector, you get training for free, the best training that you can ever get. And if you combine that with your bachelor's, and they'll usually pay for your graduate work as well, you realize the immense benefit that is above and beyond just the dollars and cents.
Right. And if I can add one more point is that, yes, there is a public to private starting salary difference. So the way the government is trying to now bridge that gap is, as I mentioned, we are holders of both the Department of Defense Cyber Scholarship Program and the National Science Foundation Scholarship for Service Program. Those two programs, what do? They, if you are a sophomore, you can apply and see if you can get that scholarship. And if you do get that scholarship, then for the next 2 years, you will be covered for the tuition, but also you'll get stipends, which go up to $29,000 per year. So that is essentially the way they kind of offset that starting salary difference. Of course, you have to serve in terms of the number of years you were funded, but that is essentially going into a full-time job right after graduation and getting that salary that might not be as high as a private sector in some cases, but sometimes it is.
Well, here's one other question, and I think you're somewhat answering it as already, but do you need to get a master's degree to get a good job in cybersecurity?
So based on National Science Foundation's feedback, they do prefer scholars who go and do their masters. The reason is you get a higher GS in the public sector. John, do you want to talk about the private sector?
Yes. I always tell people, of course, right out of school with your bachelor's, you can get a good job in the private sector, and then your employer oftentimes will pay so that you can get your graduate degree. And that's a great benefit because now they are paying your tuition. Now, you may not get it done in 2 years when you're working. It may take 3 or 4 years, but it's not out of your pocket. It's out of the pocket of your corporate sponsor. So I always think that as soon as you can get out there, get that experience, and then decide where you want to get your master's and the kind of area that you're most focused on.
And the other one is Sandia National Lab is an example. It is considered to be a national lab, but they're also considered to be Department of Energy. What they do is they select undergraduates to be interns, and they then, if they really like them, the offer would be that once you finish your undergraduate degree, you can go and join them, but you can do full-time graduate degree, a master's, from select universities that will provide, but they pay for the whole thing. They pay for you to go to that university in person, do your master's, and come back and work for them. So there are many kinds of variations that are happening both in private and public sector for attracting, because of the shortage of talent and shortage of skills.
All right, I have 2 other questions. I'm kind of putting them together here. So how much of the homework is project-based in the cyber classes? And then are there any AP courses that will get me college credit for cyber?
So in terms of, it's difficult to put a template to the homework versus the course type. So in CI 120, for example, the goal is to prepare you towards a professional certification such as Security Plus. So you do a lot of hands-on assignments. So you might do it in a virtual environment, like in a cloud, but you still do hands-on assignments. And you also do, on the other side, critical thinking, which means you have to do quizzes and maybe a project that you do present orally as well as written. So these are things that are a combination right up front in your first semester course. As you go deeper and deeper, it becomes obviously more project driven. So there will be at least one, if not two, major projects during the course. An example would be I teach, for example, aviation cybersecurity course, which is a 8th semester, or maybe a 5th, 7th semester course in some cases for students. What they do is essentially they obviously do written assignments, but a majority of it is team projects. So they do one where they try to listen to radio signals and understand what kind of aviation intelligence they can gather. The other one is looking at drones. I give them an actual drone that they try to program to do missions, and also they try to hack that drone. So these are things that are very hands-on, and that's essentially what we want the students to be able to do. John, if you want to add about maybe computer forensics, Albert.
Yeah. So a couple of good examples of project-oriented classes is in forensics, where we are trying to find the telltale signs of crimes. And today, almost every crime that is committed incorporates information that can be gathered from a phone, a laptop, or even an automobile, because those have computers inside of them. And so the forensic analyst can actually go and look at the data that's there. And so our students get to do a project called hide and seek, where they hide by creating a crime, and then they seek being the forensic analyst to try and figure out what the crime was. So this way they get to be both sides of the challenge, and it creates a project that they really enjoy.
Absolutely.
The second part of that question was, are there any AP courses that I can get college credit for cyber?
For cyber, it depends. We evaluate, I showed you the core, which is CI 120, CI 201, and so on. Those are hard to replace or to call an equivalency, because we expect a build up. So we teach hands-on stuff in the CI 120, we teach CI 201 hands-on stuff, and then they go build on that in their second year. So if you do an AP, we'll have to evaluate that for what kind of hands-on skills, what kind of tools you used. But APs can apply to the general education. You saw the 50 credits worth of general education, natural science, and mathematics. So those can be used. I mean, so they can be used towards those courses. In some cases, networking, CS213, is another course that can be used. But yeah, it really depends. We have to evaluate the AP for its content.
Super. And another question just came in, and does Embry-Riddle provide TA roles for students who are rolled in? And this is referencing the master's program, so the master's in cyber intelligence and security. And the second part of the question is, how are internship and job opportunities for international students at Embry-Riddle, in particular in the private sector?
So it depends on the cybersecurity. Always sometimes is tricky to get a full-time job in reality, but cybersecurity is so broad. So even students, for example, sometimes choose to not necessarily do cybersecurity, they do IT systems. And that means essentially they do software development, they do infrastructure development, network security, or network architecture. Those kind of roles still benefit, because like I said, we are a ABET accredited undergraduate program, which means even our graduate program is considered to be a really good program that develops engineering skills. So you can still take it to other kinds of jobs. If it does require cybersecurity, let's say security sensitive information access, then you'll have trouble if you're an international student. However, there are many others that don't require such roles. So that's the way in which I can say it's such a broad market, difficult to cover. John, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, for international or foreign students, getting a clearance to work in an area that is subject to confidentiality can be difficult. However, there are plenty of private sector companies that are not working in cleared or secure environments, and they are happy to have people with the kind of skills. So that means communication skills, written skills, the ability to do and perform tasks like being a cyber analyst, by a network operations analyst. Those kinds of jobs are very much in demand.
And I can give you an example. One of the students who was from Africa, essentially, was a visiting student here, international student, and they essentially had a different master's, which is co-located, but they did our master's as well, some of the courses, and they ended up with a private company that required cybersecurity to be a strength, a skill. So that's something that's also possible. So there are examples. And regarding, I think the first part of the question, which was RATAships, those again are evaluated on a case-by-case basis. Our university doesn't call them that; they call it as a graduate. A different term that you will only know once you apply, but it's something that is considered. There is a reduction of your tuition fee, or you get supported by reducing your tuition fee. So there are opportunities for those who are really talented or demonstrated skills in cybersecurity or a related area.
Excellent. There was one last question. I see that you have the QR code up here, so that goes right to the cyber program. The question is, where can I find more about the application requirements? And it doesn't specify either undergraduate or master's, so for either one, are they the same spot? And I don't know if Krishna, John, if you want to answer that. Sarah, if you would like to add anything.
Yeah, certainly there is on the website, there is a button for application information. And the most important thing is that there's a small application fee, but oftentimes you can get that fee waived and go ahead and fill out the forms, send them forward, and then you'll get access to a person in the enrollment management who can help you navigate through any of the issues that you might have, because we're happy to help people make the application as easy as possible.
Excellent. No other questions have popped up there, so I think that's all the questions that we had for this evening. We are 1 minute away from the end, so Krishna, John, any last comments or thoughts that you'd like to throw out there?
Well, I'd like to say, as we look out, when we started the program a decade ago, we needed 250,000 people. In the interim 10 years, we've added 250,000, but now this year we need 500,000. So actually the rate of growth of demand is faster than our ability as a nation to create new cybersecurity people. So I'm really looking and excited about using machine learning and artificial intelligence to assist the human in being able to do some of the work that needs to be done to find information. So I think that's an exciting part of the future for us in cyber intelligence and security.
Absolutely. And I would like to build off of that and say that the Cyber Gym makerspace that I mentioned has the capacity to support those kind of cutting edge work. So if you want to do machine learning, we have access to a pretty capable deep learning server that allows you to explore more about that area and its applications to cybersecurity. But I also encourage all of you to go. That's the reason I kept this as the last slide. Go to the website, check out the activities news link in the website, and you'll see a showcase of all the things that we have been doing. We have a lot of stuff which you cannot really cover in a short presentation. So I encourage you to do that and explore the website as much as possible, including the workshop website that we are created for the workshop that's happening next week. Look at it, look at the agenda, look at the people coming here, and you'll understand the depth of the program and its cybersecurity and intelligence in the cybersecurity sense as well. Thank you.
Well, with that, I want to just say thank you for joining us this evening on behalf of Embry-Riddle, CBSI, and our amazing cyber program. Thank you to our founder, John Haas, to our academic chair, Krishna Sampagathaya, and we wish you all well and thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Dr. Hart.
Thank you.